Welcome back, it's Steve Robinson from the Middleware Shop. In my last YouTube video I sort of discussed the setup of IBM Installation Manager, in the sense that I'd used the IBM packaging utility to download the WebSphere version 8 trial. How to do this is in fact on my blog at blog.webspheretools.com. However, this video is designed as part of the Middleware Shop to sort of show you the quality of my courses, the materials within, and just to give you some insights into some of the things that you'd need to do as a WebSphere administrator in the WebSphere 8 scenario. So what I've done is I have IBM Installation Manager already installed in CentOS 6.2. And you can see here that I'm in the Eclipse directory, and this is the default location that is installed or set as part of the installation of IBM Installation Manager. And I'm going to run a command that I've preset up, and essentially that command is as follows. I'm just going to paste that in. We can see we're running -skip install, which means is don't do the install, and we're passing record and a location to a XML file, the name of the XML file that we want the response file recorded to. And what we're going to do with this response file is later on run that to do a silent installation of WebSphere. So what I'm going to do now is execute this command, and what will happen is the workbench for the IBM Installation Manager will be loaded. What we can do now is if we go into preferences, we'll see that I have no repository set. What I'm going to do now is add a repository, and I can then browse for that repository. And because I've preset this up in my last video, I'm already pointing at a pre-configured repository. So I look for the repository.config file, and essentially I click OK, and now I'm pointing to the repository for WebSphere 8. Now what I can do is click on the installation option in the workbench, root, and drill down into var/apps/WebSphere 8 nd repo. There's my particular repository. So the last repository was the repository for IBM Installation Manager itself. So I'm now setting the repository to a pre-downloaded WebSphere 8 repository. You can see now that I have the repository added. I click OK. I then go back and click install, and now we begin the process of a WebSphere 8 installation. You can see here it's telling me that it's the WebSphere 8 applications server network deployment trial. I select the packages that I want to install. I can read a bit of information about the trial if I want to. Click next. You can see here that it's recording. We're not actually doing the installation. Remember, here we're generating a response file as named in my previous command. I accept the license after I've obviously of course read it. So yeah, there you go, I've read it. Click next, and now it tells me where is my shared folder. The IBM Installation Manager requires a shared location for some common libraries. Just use the default in my experience. No need to change that. We then click next, and we basically are creating a new package group, which essentially defines the location of where we're going to install the WebSphere binaries. In this case, I'm going to use the default location specified by IBM. Make sure you've got enough available disk space. I have. You can override this location, and that depends on your infrastructure standards. Clicking next again, I get to choose my language. I'm using English, and you can choose whatever one suits yourself. As we come up with the next options, what we do is we can deploy the EJB tool. We can turn on the application client. I don't need any of those. I want the sample applications in this particular instance, or I don't want them. It's up to you. Let's say I don't want them, then I turn that off. I then click next, and we'll go to a summary screen. So what we do is we get a final review of what's happening. You can see here the total size, the required size. Make sure you've got enough disk space to do this installation. Now when I say disk space, it's Linux, so it'll be based on the file system that you created. If this is AIX, then you'll probably be in an enterprise environment, and you'd have specific file systems created for the WebSphere binaries. One of the interesting things that you need to sort of do in a real world enterprise environment is make sure that you have different file systems for logs, for profiles, for the binaries, so that you can have them independently doing what they need to do without filling up each other's disk space and causing other issues. So now I'm going to click install. The installation process is occurring. It says thank you very much. I then click finish, and essentially we have completed the recording. So what I can do now is file exit. So as we can see here, that was my path that I was sending the recording to, which is var/app/response file/ysnd. So if I navigate to that particular folder and I have a look at what's going on here, you can see now that I actually have a response file that's been recorded. So if we cut that file, we can see that there's a whole bunch of XML that's been generated, and forgive me on my usage of Linux, it's not the best sometimes, too much AIX. Yeah, just having a quick look here. It's not a very long file, but you can see here that it's an XML file. There's your XML file, and it tells us that we're using particular environments. It's telling me that the deprecated accept license is not used, so maybe we'll have to have a look at what that means, but I think it's because I clicked on an accept license, it's already done it. But it just tells you some information of the operating system and the particular offering that's being installed and some other settings. So that's pretty well my response file. So in the next session what we're going to do is use this response file to actually perform an installation silently.